Welcome to Sometimes There's Side Eye, a podcast about two friends having real and unfiltered conversations about dogs and people. Listen as we talk about our lives with dogs, training, behavior, share some laughs, and a whole lot of banter. I'm Heather.
And I'm Christy.
Today we are going to talk about puppies.
And socialization.
Okay, so we already warned you that it's going to be puppy saturated content. Hopefully, everyone will enjoy hearing about the experience of raising Trin.
Yes. I mean, we have the puppy here. No, you have the puppy here. I don't have it. Not we.
I mean, she is currently napping in her little taco. Oh, so for anybody who doesn't know, we call the little donut beds tacos in our
Donuts.
house. Yeah.
Mhm.
So she's currently sacked out in her taco next to Tater in his taco.
Yes.
Yes.
And I figure you are going to be investing this work. And so if people are thinking, well, what does socialization look like realistically in real time? This is a great opportunity for us to go through as you're going through it with Trin.
Yeah. And I think that there was maybe in the last like 5 to 10 years this huge explosion of you have to socialize your dog, you need to socialize your puppy, blah 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 blah. And when that happened, everyone took that as your dog needs to meet other dogs and that's socialization. And I don't agree.
I think that's part of it, but that
It
is
is part of
definitely
it.
not the whole pi that is a very small slice of the pie,
Yeah.
and let's be honest, like, when we're talking pie, I want the whole pie.
Yes. And I would like the whole pie too, because if
Yeah,
you want to give your dog the best opportunity, you want to give them the biggest amount, the largest amount of experiences that are varying as they're
exactly.
growing up. And so, hence the whole pie, everybody. And so, when you're thinking about socialization, it's so much more than, "Oh, I took my puppy to puppy class and they played with other puppies." It's really about them having a wide array of new experiences. And that is other dogs, that is people, that is men in hats. That could be women in hoodie sweatshirts. It could be people in sunglasses. I mean, you just want your puppies and
Yeah,
dogs, you want them to meet a wide array of people and have a lot of different experiences.
in a safe, positive way.
Yes.
That's the
And
key. We don't wanna just throw puppies into these situations where they're terrified and be like, "That's socialization."
yay, I'm building me a very stable dog.
Yeah,
No.
no.
You know, it's really interesting to me because I will have clients through Puppy K that call me and I'll talk to them about the socialization part of what
Mhm.
I offer. And I have quite a few people who say to me, "Oh, my dog's never going to spend time with other dogs. I don't care." And I'm like,
Oof.
it's so much bigger than that.
Yeah.
And it's about building confidence and resilience. And it's about exposing your puppy to different experiences so that that just becomes part of their world. So then
Mhm.
when they have something happen and they're older, they're just kind of like, yeah, whatever. Things happen, different things happen. I can handle this. I can roll with it. So when you're thinking about socialization, it doesn't even have to be super saturated and up close and personal. So, an example of that is I've spent a lot of time with Trin just because she's okay. Let me start by saying she doesn't have her third round of shots yet. So, I can't safely just take her anywhere. And she is quite small still. So, I am taking her in her little, it's embarrassing. But in her little, what is it? A sling? I don't know. What are we calling that thing,
It's
Christy?
a doggy backpack.
It's like a what the fuck do they call the
It's like
little
a baby
baby?
Bjorn.
Yes, it's so embarrassing. So I'm taking Trin around in a puppy Bjorn, apparently, people, and you can laugh at me. I'm embarrassed about it, but it's very useful. So what I've been doing is I've been taking her around in her little puppy satchel, and she just kind of chills in there and she gets to experience the world around her. And I can control the distance. I can control if people are coming up to her, if there's other dogs around. I have full control over what's happening. And it's really nice if I want her to experience something from afar. I just kind of have her like hanging out there with me, and we can stand as a bystander for her to take in different experiences. It's been super helpful, as embarrassing as it is.
Yeah. And I think an important part is, I mean, honestly, anybody listening to this podcast probably is not somebody who's saying, but my dog will never be around other dogs, or so I don't need that. But realistically, we do this in a variety of ways. My dog will never be around, this. So I don't really
Yeah.
need to introduce them to that. I think just because a dog isn't going to be around something consistently doesn't mean that they shouldn't have that experience. I
Yeah.
think sometimes creating a void of that one thing, whether it's children or dogs, or guess what? When I get a dog, my dog doesn't need to be great around kids because they're not kids in my home. However, I don't want her to see a child and think that's something to chase after, or that's
Or bark at,
bark at, or
or be
that is
afraid of.
scary.
Yep.
Yeah, all those things. I think when we take out something completely from their life, sometimes we can create this desperation for that thing.
Mhm.
So, like, if a dog really likes other dogs and you're never gonna have them around other dogs, then when they see a dog on the street, they're desperate to get to
Yep.
that other dog. And that can cause frustration, and then it spirals from there. Or it becomes a thing that they've never interacted with, so now it's scary
Mhm.
and the defenses are up, so they're on guard. So
Mhm.
it can go a variety of ways, but when we expose them to things, even that though we don't think they're gonna need those things in our life the way our life lives now, it doesn't mean that they shouldn't be exposed to those
Mhm.
things.
And honestly, if I think about my life 5 years ago to my life now, it's completely
Oh,
different. You don't have a crystal ball as to what your
yeah.
life is gonna look like. And thinking about the dog thing, so this weekend, I was at a barn hunt trial, and I took Trin with me just to literally be there. And
Mhm,
somebody that I know has Australian Shepherds. Well, I don't know a lot of people who have big fluffy dogs.
mhm,
I just don't. Most of my friends have short-haired dogs, right?
right.
And so I saw this person, I saw her dogs, and Aussies have a little bit more energy, so they're kind of
Yeah.
romping around, whatever. And I immediately started walking over that way and was facing my little baby Bjorn like towards her so that Trent could see these dogs. And I said to the person, I was like, "I don't really know a lot of fluffy dogs." And she was like, "Oh, yeah, for sure." But that's like an example of, do I expect to spend a lot of time with fluffy dogs? Probably not, but here's an experience, and it's something
Yeah.
that I can just have her see. And she was, like, watching them, and we moved on. It was literally a 30-second thing that is just money in the bank. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Money in the socialization bank.
Yeah, and honestly, when I got Lucy, she had never met a bulldog that I know of.
Yeah.
Didn't know anyone one with bulldogs. I didn't think I'd be around bulldogs. That was not they were not a popular breed when I first got all these things, and yet she loved Tater. I mean,
Mhm.
they had a great relationship. So there is no way to know all the things that you'll encounter. I
Yeah.
mean,
But if you are doing a wide array of socialization, that's
yes.
where it all comes together. That's where the magic
Yeah.
is, because you are building that confidence and you're building that resilience and you're building your dog's ability to just roll with it.
Mhm.
And that is why all of the different stuff is so important. I mean, I've been taking her to patios and just letting her sit there while I eat my food. I will take her and I will sit at a Starbucks and just let her sit there.
Mhm.
She's not actively doing anything at this point. I'm not actually training her, but
Right.
she's taking in the world. She's hearing cars go by, she's hearing horns, she's hearing alarms, she's hearing people talk with different voices, she's seeing different people. All of
Mhm.
that stuff is coming together. And obviously, genetics play a role in all of this as well. But
Sure.
You want to look at the puppy and decide what you think they can handle, then make your socialization decisions based on that. And if you think if your puppy's more uncomfortable, give more distance. You don't need to be sitting on the patio. Maybe you go and you stand back away, whatever distance it takes for them
Mhm.
to feel comfortable and not feel overwhelmed. And you judge based on your individual dog. But I just think it's such an important thing. And the imprinting window, the socialization window is debatable. Everyone argues about when that time is. Here's my theory. She's young, she's a puppy. I'm just going to bank it all. I'm
Yeah,
literally going to spend up to 6 months just banking everything because as long as I'm making everything positive and making sure that I'm gauging what she can handle and not pushing her too far, none of it is bad.
right. Yeah. And I would say one of the reasons that, I mean, if people are thinking, what does it matter that we do it when they're young like this? Yes, the imprinting period is very specific, although debatable, but also we know for sure that puppies generalize things and adult dogs don't. And what
Mhm.
I mean by that is if a puppy meets a cowboy with a cowboy hat in your house, when it's a puppy, and then you go to Starbucks and it sees a cowboy hat, it generalizes that. Like, cowboy
Mhm.
hat was fine in my house, cowboy hat is fine at Starbucks. Adult dog is like, cowboy hat is fine at my house, stranger danger at Starbucks. Like, they don't generalize those things, so you have to then reintroduce it in new environments. Whereas, let's bank that early so we
Mhm.
don't have to do all that legwork if we don't have to.
Yeah, and little puppy brains are like sponges. And
Yes,
so they just take all of that stuff in and it makes their life and your life easier
absolutely.
because they're able to be more comfortable in their own skin. I really do think that doing good socialization when you have a young puppy can absolutely make for a completely different dog as an adult. And obviously there's a ton of other factors, but
So
I
many
would
factors.
I would rather err on the side of caution and
Mhm.
just spend all the time doing all the things than just be like, "Oh, my puppy has solid genetics. She'll be fine." Like, no. Uh-uh.
Yeah,
I am going to take her out and have her experience everything possible.
right. Yeah, and that is one of the reasons that I don't want a puppy. I mean, there's lots of reasons I don't want a puppy, but that's one reason I will not get a puppy because it would take so much for me to incorporate enough socialization with human beings and with dogs because I don't have other dogs in my home.
Mhm.
And as a single person, I would have to make sure that it's getting more socialization than just with me or just with one other person. There's a lot more steps. If you're in a family, guess what? Kids are coming over. Like, you're having the gamut come through your house.
Mhm.
I work from home, so it's not the same social dynamics inside my home
Mhm.
that maybe a family would. And that goes into my consideration of dog selection. In fact, I told Heather this weekend I met a really nice, cute puppy that I was like, you know what? I feel, even though we always say, like, wait till sexual maturity if you don't,
You
I
felt a little something.
I did feel a little something, and I felt very comfortable with the fact that she is going to continue to be social with people and dogs, watching her interact with a variety of dogs and people in that moment. But then I looked at her age and I thought, you know what? I don't think I can provide her the socialization to continue what has already been started for her.
Well, it's gonna be a lot more work.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I
And
mean,
the
I
f
guess I could buckle down and, like,
you could. You're
if somebody
capable.
dropped that dog off at my house, I would step up to the plate and do it. But it's something I would have to
Yep.
realistically think through on how I would do that and what that would look like and how to incorporate it daily, all of those things. So that's a consideration for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting because of who I am and the things I like to do. I feel like I also have more opportunities
Yes.
presented to me. For example, taking Tater to barn hunt on Sunday, I was like, "Oh, Oh yeah, trend's going. That's
Yeah.
absolutely happening, right? So I have opportunities to just already sort of incorporate her into the fold. Something else that when you were talking I wanted to mention is also keep in mind that if you would like to socialize your new puppy with dogs, don't just assume because you live with other dogs that that
Oh,
counts.
yes, absolutely.
You want to be socializing them with other dogs outside of your
Right,
home,
right.
other people outside of your home, other children outside of your home. You want the picture to be wide and big. And like Christy said, we don't have children, but I have friends who have kids. So I immediately was like, "Hey." And you want to make sure obviously that it's appropriate children. I think that children, different types of people with different voices, some are loud, some are not.
Yes.
Um, people I like to take my puppies to obviously like Lowe's, Home Depot, and when I do, I always push a shopping cart around with them just for the wheels and the motion and all that stuff. I had taken Trin to Lowe's a week or 2 ago, and I was walking her around, and the huge staircases that are on
Oh,
wheels?
yeah. Yeah.
Some lady, some employee at Lowe's was moving one of those down the aisle, and she was, like, getting ready, and I literally stopped, and I just stood there. And she turned around, she was like, "Can I help you?" And I was like, "Oh, no, I'm just letting my puppy watch you." And she was like, laughed, and she was like, "Do you want me to move it?" And I was like, "That would be great." And she, like, moved it for me and walked up and down, and I was like, "This is so cool." But it's weird things like that,
Yeah.
off the cuff things. If I see something like that, I'm like, hell yeah. If you go to Home Depot and they're closing down the aisle to use the cherry picker to get something off the shelf, stop. Let your puppy watch. Let them hear. Do all of that. So anything like that, I'm absolutely picking out and letting her just stand there and observe. I also wanted to say I'm intermittently giving food, but I am not giving food if she seems nervous.
Mm.
So if she seems unsure about something, I'm comforting her and kind of like encouraging her verbally. And
Or
then,
giving space.
or giving space, right, depending
Mhm.
on what it is and what she's showing me. And then once she's sort of working through it and just taking it as this is part of the landscape, then I will go ahead and give food. So I had the opportunity for her to experience a horse that was extremely dog friendly. And she was like, whatevs. On the same property, she got to experience geese and ducks. The geese were extremely loud, and
Mhm.
that she was like, "Whoa." And
Mhm.
she was biffing at them and was definitely uncomfortable. I did let her sit with it for a minute because I know her genetics are super strong and I feel less worried about breaking her.
Right.
um,
Yeah.
and she did work through it and she was like, "Okay, cool." And she just went with it. So I didn't give space, but if her reaction had been more than a few seconds of, "Whoa, I'm freaking out," I would have absolutely given space.
Yeah, and I'd like to call out when you say you're sitting letting her sit with it and work through it. Heather is not talking about 15 minutes of
No.
trembling or
No, no, no,
like,
no, 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 no.
an hour of shaking. It's
No.
a short period of time. So I just don't want people to think, "Oh, I should let my dog work through this." And it's
No.
been 15 minutes and your puppy is terrified, you
Yeah,
know?
no, it was literally less than 30 seconds where she
Yeah.
was like, I don't know about this." And
Yeah.
and it wasn't even an exaggerated fear response or anything else. It was literally like, "What the hell is that? I
They
don't
are
even
so
know what
loud.
you are. They are so loud." And then once she worked through it, I was like, "Okay, cool." And then we were standing there and we literally stood there in the middle of a bunch of geese for 10 minutes and talked because I was very curious about the geese. And then she also
Did you learn anything about the geese?
yeah, she shows them like they show dogs.
Oh, what? Yeah, that makes sense
Yeah,
because you can show chickens and
yeah.
rabbits and
So I was learning all about that. So
oh, okay.
yes, I did. It was very cool. Anyway, and then she also got to experience goats. And when I left there, I didn't know this was going to happen. And I literally left there and told Christy, I was like, I just hit the socialization lottery.
You
This
did.
is amazing. Yeah. So sometimes things come out of nowhere and you're just like, yes. But I am intentionally during this time doing a lot of different things to get her to experience all different types of situations and people and
Yeah.
animals wherever possible.
Yeah. And I think that's the key, like just being intentional and watching for reactions and
Mhm,
knowing what your puppy can handle too, and not putting them, not stressing them out, but letting them work through things
mhm,
too.
mhm.
Yeah. That's it's such a fine balance of
It is.
letting them work through things and not stressing them out. And if you're not sure, I would say work with a trainer, somebody who's experienced
Yeah.
in that.
A and err on the side of caution.
Err on the side of it's not gonna be detrimental for them to back up a few
Mhm,
steps and then come at it again from a
mhm,
calmer perspective.
mhm. Yeah, we were walking into a restaurant last night with Trin to be on a patio, and there was a stray cat walking across the parking lot, and I just stopped and let her watch it. I mean, it can be something that simple.
Yeah. How does she feel about cats?
She watched it. She was much less interested in the cat than she is in birds.
Okay. Yeah.
Like flying birds are very interesting to the little French bulldog.
Mhm. She's
Yeah.
plotting how she can pull them out of the air.
I'm like, "Oh, baby, we got some lure coursing in your future for sure."
There you go.
Oh, that's hilarious. I think too, the other thing to remember is when you are socializing your puppy, freaking have fun.
Yeah, I think we so often talk about socialization so seriously,
Yeah.
but it doesn't have to be serious. It can be fun. Not can be, but it should be fun.
Yeah.
It should be fun for both you and your dog.
Yep. I had a friend who was like, "Hey, do you want to go out to dinner?" And I was like, "Yes, I would love to. Can we go to a patio so I can take Trent?"
Yeah,
Still go out to dinner with your friend. Just
yeah,
take your I will say it is much easier to socialize her because she's so small.
mm.
Taking Tiago at this age was a much more involved effort because I couldn't take him in a baby Bjorn. I mean,
I
when he
mean, I wish you would put him up in a baby Bjorn now.
now, um, to put it in perspective, Trin is about 12 and a half pounds right now, and she's 15 weeks. Tiago, when he came home at 9.5 weeks, was 20 pounds.
Mhm.
So, he was a little bit bigger. And so when I would take him to do this type of stuff, he was on the ground walking around, right? So I did have to do things planned out a little bit differently. He didn't go to certain places until he actually did have his third vaccine because I had to have him on the ground. Or I took him in a shopping cart. I did take him to Home Depot, put a little blanket in the shopping cart and the whole thing, that type of stuff. Whereas her, I can just take her and carry her around and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, so things
Um,
to consider. So we can just briefly hit on veterinary recommendations. So if you have a dog that does not have its third round of shots, veterinarians will often recommend not taking your dog to different
Anywhere.
places, mostly anywhere. But there are also some ways, there's some vets who disagree with that. And there's evidence on both sides for those arguments. And we understand why vets say don't and why some vets say do. But in the way Heather's doing this is about as safe as you can be. The dog's off the ground. They're not exposed to those diseases. A dog in a shopping cart is not going to be exposed the same way it is if it's on the ground licking the concrete. I mean, if you have a concrete licker, I don't know. There's
Yeah.
tasty things on the ground, sometimes
Mhm.
things we don't see. So there are some safe ways to incorporate this, or safer.
Mhm.
And it's really up to you to decide what's most important to you,
Mhm.
taking that risk or socialization. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's about making smart choices and
Yes.
weighing risk and reward.
Mhm.
So for me, that means not going to a pet store. It means
Right.
not going to places where dogs frequent. I actually, at this point, pre third vaccine, will choose Lowe's over Home Depot because it seems like less people take
Yes.
their dogs to Lowe's than Home Depot.
Mhm.
Okay. I will choose Old Navy because as of the time of this recording, they are dog friendly and no one takes their dog to Old Navy. There are places that you can take them that are dog friendly. Always be respectful, always make sure it's allowed, but that dogs don't normally go. I took her to the car dealership while I waited for my vehicle to get an oil change. And actually, at the car dealership, I let her walk around
Mhm.
because the chances of there being parvo risk at a car dealership are very slim. And I decided that I was willing to weigh the risk versus the reward, and I was okay with it. That calculation is a very individual calculation. So
Right.
for you, you need to decide. What I personally get a little cringy about is the recommendation that your puppy not see a damn thing but the inside of your house until it has the third vaccine. I've had clients
Mhm.
come to me at Puppy K who are like, my vet told me that I can't even take my dog to the front yard. And
Right.
I'm
I've had
like,
I've had
ooh,
friends who didn't allow their dogs in their own backyard because other
yeah,
dogs had visited it in the last 4 months.
yeah,
And I was like, "No, your puppy has literally never stepped on grass at this
yeah,
point." Like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And even when it comes, okay, so Trin at the point of only having 2 vaccines, has met 2 or 3 adult dogs, definitely 2, and the adult dogs that I chose are dogs that I know extremely well who are fully vaccinated and completely healthy. She has gone on nature walks, she has been on hikes, she has been on trail walks, she has been to multiple stores, multiple patios. I mean, she's been to a lot of frickin' places. And all of those places, I carefully weighed risk and reward.
And do your research, like,
And
so
do
that
your
you feel
research.
comfortable with your decision.
Yes. When she gets her 3rd shot on Monday, the world will completely open, and she will be on the ground going wherever because her
Yeah.
but she will already at that point have so many experiences under her belt that
Mhm.
when she can hit the ground running, quite literally hit the ground running, she
Yeah.
will already have all of this confidence in being
Mm.
in the world, and
Yeah.
I'm ahead of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will say I cringe now that I did it, but my first dog, Lizzie, because we got her so young, I mean, she was 4
Mhm.
weeks old, and I knew nothing about the breed. I did a lot of research pre-internet people. I went to the library and checked
Oh
out
my god.
27 million books. But I was told that Shar could be very picky with people, and I
Uh-huh.
knew I wanted a social dog. I literally took her to PetSmart at 4 weeks old.
You did not.
I like, how she did not die, I don't know. But
Christy!
but I literally took her everywhere. I didn't know better. Don't do that. Like,
See,
clearly
everybody,
do
we all
not do
start
that.
somewhere. Yep.
We all start
Don't
somewhere.
do that.
I mean, she survived it, but there is a big difference too with a dog, you know the history, both parents are vaccinated, you know they've had their first shots. That's a little bit different than getting a puppy from unknown background, unknown parent
Mhm.
background, and you're like, "I don't know,
Mhm.
how many shots have they had?"
Mhm.
That kind of situation, which is what I did. I just was like, "I don't know, let's take her to PetSmart." And let her walk on the ground so she could meet people.
It'll be great. It'll be fine.
It
The
She was social and brave.
the other thing to consider is geographical,
Yeah,
differences because, for example, Trin's breeder lives in Nova Scotia. It's
mhm,
freaking cold. Their parvo risk is like 0. So
right.
their worry about taking puppies out even before they've had their 2nd shot is like completely different. Whereas we're in Phoenix, parvo risk is off the freaking charts and
So,
you need to
yeah,
make different considerations. We also don't get a deep freeze here. So
yeah.
you definitely want to consider like your geographic stuff too. It was kind of cute because we went up north to Pine this weekend, and when we got to the cabin, I just let Trin out of the car and let her on the ground and let her start walking around. And my husband was like, "What? Wait." Do we know it's safe here? Is it okay? Should she be walking around like this? He was so worried, just
Yeah.
trying to be careful. And I was like, no, 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 it's okay. It's cold up here. They've already had multiple freezing. I'm not worried about it. Our risk is
No.
low. But he was so cute because he was just like,
Aw.
oh, she's just walking around. And I'm like, yeah, it's fine. But you want to be careful. I mean, nobody wants
Yeah.
their puppy to contract parvo or distemper.
No.
My God.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is definitely weighing risk and reward for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Use your brain.
Yes, absolutely. Use your brain.
Another pro tip that is so great that you gain from all of the things other than what we already talked about from socialization is it wears your dog out. So if I take Trin on a little socialization trip and all she does is sit and take in the world, she sleeps so good.
Yeah.
It's just the most beautiful night.
It makes sense because her little brain is working. So, I mean, you think about when you're trying to take in new information and how
Mhm.
tired you are after, like a new job or a new anything, and you're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm so tired, mentally exhausted. I'm going to take a nap."
Yeah.
That works for puppies.
It's so cute too, because when we're out in a little seeing something new, her little nose is going like a million miles a
Oh,
minute. Like she's just
yeah.
taking it all in. It's so adorable. But it
Aw.
is true. I do think every time I take her somewhere, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have some really good quiet time.
Mhm.
And I would say if you're crate training, couple of your socialization trips then on the backside, do a little crate training time when you get home because they're gonna be exhausted. Use it to your benefit.
Man, that is like a great pro tip right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Use that
think,
time.
yeah, use it wisely, man. Oh, one other thing. If you decide that you're going to take your puppy on a socialization trip and you are concerned, you're like, well, my puppy's going to be bored. My puppy's not going to lay there. I have a really energetic breed, whatever the case may be prepared. So take a bully stick, take a frozen Kong, take a lick mat, take their
Mhm.
favorite toy, take something for them to do that is a snuffle mat,
Mhm.
whatever, so that they have something to do in case they can't just literally sit there and idly chill
Right.
in a puppy Bjorn. Tiago couldn't do that. I needed to be able to give him something to do when he was a young dog. So do be prepared. Also make sure you're taking treats and water and poop bags and you're prepared. Just I have like a whole little satchel that I just
Mhm.
am ready to go and all of my stuff is pre-packed. And when I'm going on a socialization trip, I just grab my bag and that goes with me. Definitely be prepared with something for your dog to do. And
And I would even say a couple different options for
yeah,
your
for
dog,
sure.
because sometimes, like people, puppies are like, "That was my favorite thing yesterday, but it's
Yeah.
not my favorite thing today." So have
Yeah.
lots of variety of
Yeah.
options that you can say, "Okay, that's not your favorite thing. Why don't you try the Kong instead of the bully stick?"
For
"Oh,
sure.
that's your favorite thing? Great."
And if there is something like we talked about that your dog seems unsure about, and you decide, you know what, not today, your puppy can't handle it. Next time, go back for the experience, take something like a snuffle mat or throw some. I don't even like throw them in the ground because then your puppy's snuffling. I like
Right,
the
in the ground.
snuffle mat
Yeah,
so that you're controlling the environment their nose is going into. And then they're doing something that's calming and they're not fully engaged in watching whatever it is that they're unsure about,
mhm,
and they also have space to be able to take it in, so it's more like passive socialization, and I freaking love that.
yeah, absolutely. That's great.
Even to the point that you can have your puppy on your driveway just sitting there eating a
Yeah,
snuffle mat while the world goes by. Sit out
yeah,
there when the school bus comes. Sit out there when the kids are do the school bus comes anymore? Like, do we
yeah.
actually? Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, people still go to school,
No,
Heather.
I feel like all the kids in our development, like, walk to school,
There's
like,
probably a school very close to you, so
fair, fair.
yeah.
There is. Alright, so
So
that
they
was
probably do walk to that school.
see how much I know about children? No, but seriously, sit on the driveway while the school bus is going by, while the kids are walking by, coming home from school.
While the mailman goes by, man, that
Yes.
guy, woo.
Yes, while the UPS I mean, freaking Amazon goes by 75 times a day. Let your puppy watch Amazon.
You know what? Now is the time for you to order all the Door Dashes that you want,
Yes.
all the Amazon packages,
That's right. We're giving
and
you permission.
saying it's for socialization.
Yep. Seriously though, Christy, what do you think how could your life with Lucy potentially have been different
Yeah.
had as a puppy she might have experienced the mailman and experienced delivery drivers and everything
Ugh,
else,
yeah.
right?
In fact, I just in my memories from last year, I had posted all my blinds were ripped down askew, and in it, the caption was from my social media was, "Well, I guess there was a delivery while I was gone."
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, it would be amazing if that would have been a slightly different experience for
Yeah.
both of us.
Yeah. So it's not a guarantee, but why not put the money in
Yeah,
the bank?
absolutely.
Yeah.
And one thing I'd like to say is if you're someone who's done all these things and you're like, I did all the things you just said and it didn't turn out, that doesn't mean it's your fault. It doesn't mean you did it
Right.
wrong. There's a lot that plays into it. We're just talking about stacking the deck in your favor when you have the opportunity to. So I just want to call that out for anyone who
Yeah.
might have felt like, man, I did those things and it didn't work out the way I wanted it to.
Yeah, it's a very complex ball of wax,
Yeah,
and we definitely don't want anyone to feel like, "Oh my god, I did something wrong because it didn't work." No, not at all. But like we said, if you can stack the deck in your favor, if you can put money in the bank, why not do it? And hopefully that means that your dog and you live a better life together.
absolutely. If you've enjoyed this episode, subscribe, rate, and share us wherever you get your podcasts. Also, come on over to Instagram and engage with us at Sometimes There's Side Eye.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.